And we can speak to former England captain Nasser Hussain. Now, Nasser, very good morning. England showing a little bit of steel today, didn't they, with the bat, having to come back from 45-3. Maybe not seen too much of that over the last few months from this England side.
Yeah, I said before the game that this team are very conditions dependent, and when the ball is coming onto the bat, as it does in New Zealand, and it doesn't do in those last two Test matches in Pakistan, they're a very good side. You know, before the second Test in Pakistan, they'd won 6 of their last 7 Test matches, but it was more in conditions like we're seeing in Christchurch, where the ball comes onto the bat, there's not a lot of spin, and they look a very good side. You know, they fought back with ball yesterday. And they fought back with bat today, 45 for 3, 71 for 4. And it's a very, very long batting lineup and a very talented batting lineup in these conditions.
Morning, Nas. Harry Brook rode his luck, didn't he? But is that one of his most important Test innings under pressure, do you think? Yeah,
he's a really talented player. He's played a lot of important Test match innings. I mean, he's gone to 2,000 runs, 8th fastest. I think it's something like 36 innings. He's averaging in the high 50s. He's a multi-format player. He's going to be a great player, in my opinion. He's just a fantastic talent. Very, very uncomplicated lad. Just see ball, hit ball, stays very still at the crease. Yeah, he had a bit of luck. And New Zealand had been a bit clumsy in this game with bat. They gave away wickets, cheap wickets yesterday, and drop, 5 or 6 chances, which is very un-New Zealand-like. If you think of Glenn Phillips's catch, as you've just shown, that's what they're normally like in the field. But if the opposition drop you, you've got to cash in. It's a word that England have mentioned, isn't it? Be a bit more ruthless with the bat. And I think Harry Brook has been there. He got a triple 100 in Multan. He started this tour with 100. He's only going to go from strength to strength. He is a real talent, and someone we're going to see on our screens for a very long time.
We're going to be hearing Nasser from Ollie Pope in a little bit later this morning. 77 for him. A lot of talk about where he is best suited to play, 5 or 6 rather than 3. What did you make of him today?
I thought it was a typical Ollie Pope innings, really. He looked, again, a little bit frenetic at the start of the innings. He would say busy, but, a pitch with a bit of pace and bounce, and he loves that little back cut that in the end got him out. He loves to clip through the leg side. He looked in good touch. And if you look at Ollie historically, it's not that he hasn't got the talent, it's that consistency that he needs. He often starts a series, if you go back to India with that magnificent 190, or in the English summer, he started well. It's when things slightly go downhill and you're not finding your rhythm, that's when it can go in the wrong direction for him. So for him, it is continuing with this start and finding that consistency, whether it be at 3, if Ollie Robinson, who has now flown over, Durham's Ollie Robinson, takes the gloves and he moves back to 3, or if they keep him in this new position as 6 and he keeps for the next 2 Test matches, either he's got to find that consistency, because overall his average at number 3 is around about 40, but his Test match average is around about 34, and he needs that to go in the right direction.
Nasser, I know you've always got a close eye on the captains, so come on, what did you make of Stokes' captaincy? And also, how he looked with the bat in what seems like quite an important innings for him after that Pakistan series.
Yeah, I mean, I make no secret of the fact I think he's one of the best England captains I've ever seen, to be honest, Ben Stokes, and he himself was pretty critical of his captaincy in Pakistan. He was obviously going through various things off the field as well, but I thought he was back to his best yesterday in the way he handled Bashir. But I thought with the bat today, I noticed, Matt, you know me, I'm a bit of a cricket badger and technique badger, but I watched him in the nets when he was injured. He could still bat, and I was watching him closely, and he'd almost like copied Harry Brook and stayed very still with his hands and his back lift. And in Pakistan, I noticed that, and I spoke to Marcus Trescothick about it, and he said he'd been tinkering. When he gets injured, he tinkers with his technique, and I watched today and overnight, and he's back to the rhythm with his hands, a bit more like Joe Root. He's waving his hands around, and that looks very, very much more natural to Ben Stokes. And I'm pleased he's gone back to natural Ben Stokes and his natural sort of technique. So it was a good sign. It's only 37. It's only against the seamers so far. His problems have been against spin in the subcontinent. But obviously with him at 7, and as you mentioned, Matt, with Wokes at 8 Test match 100, Atkinson 9 Test match 100, casts at 10, first class 100. It's a very long batting lineup, and England will look to get a sizable lead.
And just one more on that batting lineup, Nasser. Jacob Bethell at 3. How do you feel he shaped up? It was a tough ask for him, wasn't it?
It was a very tough ask, batting out of position, never batted at number 3 in first-class cricket, never got 100 in first-class cricket, picked on raw talent, and he is that. He looked composed, actually, going in early with the fall of Crawley's wicket. He looked calm, he looked composed. It was 10, and he got a good ball. Nathan Smith round the wicket, angle in, nipped away, and he just held the line and he nicked it. That happens in the top order. If he gets a chance second time round, when the pitch should hopefully get flatter and flatter, he's got to cash in and then say, over to you, England. You know, I've got runs at 3. You do what you want to do now. I'm going to do my job.
How about New Zealand, Nas? You did touch on it there, but yesterday there's some uncharacteristically sloppy shots when the batters were in. Today, they dropped 6 catches. Some of them weren't that tough either. Tom Latham dropped 3. I'm sure you've never dropped 3 in a day. Should they be well ahead of the game right now?
I don't know about ahead of the game, but overnight you sort of wake up looking at 319 for 8 and you think, what sort of score is that? And it's not until both sides have batted on the wicket that you realise, actually, it is a pretty good pitch. They leave grass on the pitch in New Zealand, but really all that does, it comes onto the bat. And New Zealand will feel like, you know, they should have been pushing towards 400 as opposed to 350. And so they will look back on the sloppy nature of their dismissals yesterday and today in the field. You know, they dropped Brook 4 times. They were sloppy. And if England have got that batting lineup that's long, you've got to take those chances. So we know they're a ruthless side. That's the great thing about England, New Zealand. If you actually look up the matchups on both sides, whether it be Williamson against Root, the 4-seamers against the 4-seamers, that is why it's always close between these two sides. They know each other well. They're very similar. It should be a cracking series. Michael Atherton always describes Test match cricket as a arm wrestle, and we've seen it in these 2 days where, you know, New Zealand were up, England have fought back, and then, you know, today New Zealand were up and England have fought back again. So it's always great watching Test match cricket.
Well, staying with that, Nasser, if England are really pulling that arm down, what sort of lead do they need then to put a bit of pressure back on New Zealand?
You know, anything up towards 100. I think the pitch will. Day 3, we had Simon Dool on the cricket podcast a week or so ago, and he said generally in Christchurch, Hagley Oval, day 3, day 4 are good times to bat. So. And New Zealand haven't picked a frontline spinner. So if on day 5 they've got 2 part-time spinners. But first things first, start well tomorrow morning and try and get as much as you can with that lead. Because also New Zealand, it's quite complicated. World Test Championship, New Zealand need to win 3-0 to stay in the fight for the World Test Championship final. So New Zealand will be playing positive cricket. We know England play positive cricket. They don't play for draws. So both sides will be going for a win in the next couple of days, or next 3 days.
Nasser, always a pleasure. Lovely to see you in this lovely morning. You always brighten it up for me, mate. Thank you very much.
Thank you.